Welcome to CH141, College Chemistry Laboratory 1, Families of Elements and the Periodic Table. Part A, Flame Tests of Cation Solutions. This part may be performed as an instructor demonstration. Obtain 7 test tubes and a test tube rack. Using a marker, label the test tubes as lithium, sodium, potassium, calcium, barium, strontium, and unknown. Using a spatula, place a pea-sized amount of each salt into the corresponding test tube. Add lithium chloride to the test tube labeled lithium. Add sodium chloride to the test tube labeled sodium. Add potassium chloride to the test tube labeled potassium. Add calcium chloride to the test tube labeled calcium. Add barium chloride to the test tube labeled barium. Add strontium chloride to the test tube labeled strontium. Add the unknown into the test tube labeled unknown. Record the unknown number on the datasheet. Add about 10 to 15 drops of distilled water to each test tube. Insert a cotton swab into each test tube, cotton side down, and allow the solution to absorb into the cotton. Light a Bunsen burner. Carefully place the cotton swab soaked in the lithium chloride solution into the burner. Observe the color of the flame. Record your observations on the datasheet. Repeat the flame tests for sodium chloride, record your observations on the datasheet. Potassium chloride, record your observations on the datasheet. Calcium chloride, record your observations on the datasheet. Barium chloride, record your observations on the datasheet. Strontium chloride, record your observations on the datasheet. And unknown solutions. Record your observations on the datasheet. To clean up, rinse the contents of each test tube into the liquid hazardous waste container with a small amount of water. Wash the test tubes with soap and water and return them to the proper location. Place the used cotton swabs into the solid waste container for this experiment. Part B. Reactions of cation solutions. Obtain a well plate. Into each of the 3 wells labeled lithium chloride, add 10 drops of lithium chloride solution. Into each of the 3 wells labeled sodium chloride, add 10 drops of sodium chloride solution. Into each of the 3 wells labeled potassium chloride, add 10 drops of potassium chloride solution. Into each of the 3 wells labeled calcium chloride, add 10 drops of calcium chloride solution. Into each of the 3 wells labeled barium chloride, add 10 drops of barium chloride solution. Into each of the 3 wells labeled strontium chloride, add 10 drops of strontium chloride solution. Into each of the 3 empty wells, add 10 drops of the unknown solution. In the first row, in the first unknown well, add 10 drops of ammonium carbonate. Observe the reactions. Record your observations on the data sheet. In the second row and the second unknown well, add 10 drops of ammonium phosphate. Observe the reactions. Record your observations on the data sheet. In the third row and the third unknown well, add 10 drops of ammonium sulfate. Observe the reactions. Record your observations on the data sheet. To clean up, dispose of the reaction mixtures into the liquid hazardous waste. Rinse each well with a small amount of water into the hazardous waste container. Wash the well plate with soap and water and return to your bin. Part C, halide tests. Obtain 4 test tubes and a test tube rack. Label the test tubes as chlorine, bromine, and iodine, and unknown. Add 10 drops of sodium chloride solution to the test tube labeled chlorine. Add 10 drops of sodium bromide solution to the test tube labeled bromine. Add 10 drops of sodium iodide solution to the test tube labeled iodine. To each of the 4 test tubes, add 10 drops of hexane, one drop of nitric acid, and 5 drops of bleach. Gently mix the solutions. Observe the color of each test tube. Record your observations on the data sheet. Based on your observations, what is the identity of the unknown? To clean up, dispose of the solutions in the liquid hazardous waste container. Rinse each test tube with a small amount of water into the hazardous waste container. Wash the test tubes with soap and water and return them to the proper location.